The Eagles' bye week is over, and now their focus shifts to the New York Giants as they're set to host the rival Giants in the divisional round at Lincoln Financial Field on Saturday night. Coming your way on Eagles now, we're going to preview this matchup, but first, if you think the Birds are going to take down the G-Men for a third time this year, that's how I'm feeling. I want you to hit that thumbs up icon and like the video, and with that, let's preview this game right now. All right, here we go. Happy Monday. Welcome into Philadelphia Eagles now here on Chat Sports. Chase Senior here with you. Hope all of the Bird Gang had a fantastic weekend and your weeks are off to a great start. Really excited to preview this matchup against the Giants. And when you think about it from a macro perspective and you looked at some of the opponents that the Eagles could take on in the divisional round, Eagles have to be happy that they're going up against the Giants, which right now with the remaining teams left in the NFC playoff picture, probably the weakest roster of them all. Kickoff set for 8:15 p.m. Eastern time on Saturday night at the Link, and you already know the K-Lot is going to be packed and the beers are going to be flowing. A raucous atmosphere is going to be the case at the Link for this primetime matchup. Philadelphia, odds makers really like the Birds in this spot. 7.5-point favorites with the over-under set at 48. Of course, make sure you subscribe, turn on your notifications, because myself and Trizzy Trace will be going live for a watch party for this game, our pregame show. Lock us in. Now, Philadelphia as home favorites in the playoffs in their last 6 instances when they played at the Link favored to win. Hasn't really resulted in a lot of success for Philadelphia. 3-3, but this is one of those interesting stats where it really is a year-by-year case, and this Eagles team really no excuse to lose to an inferior opponent in the New York Giants. Last time the Birds were home favorites in the playoffs was in 2019. Carson Wentz got hit by Jadeveon Clowney. He goes out. Josh McCown comes in. Birds lose as 1-point favorites against Russell Wilson in Seattle, as Russ has always cooked and owned Philadelphia. In 2013 with Chip Kelly, the Eagles were 3-point favorites. They lost in the final seconds. I was at Xfinity Live for that game, nearly walked into traffic because I was so depressed. Birds lost that one. 2010 against Aaron Rodgers, Philadelphia 2.5-point favorites. They fell in that game as well. How about against the New York Giants in 2006? Birds were favored by 6. They won. In 2004 against the Vikings, Philadelphia also winning as 8-point favorites. And in 2004, I was at the Link for the NFC Championship game. Birds went to the NFC title game for the 4th time in a row. And finally, they got past that hurdle, made it to Super Bowl 39. 6-point favorites against the Falcons. They were victorious in that matchup as well in the early days of Lincoln Financial Field, after that stadium had just opened. And of course, going into this matchup against New York on Saturday night, the big looming question: can Philadelphia pull off a third win over New York this year? There's this myth out there that it's impossible to take down the same team 3 times in a single campaign. Well, we just saw the San Francisco 49ers do it over the Seattle Seahawks, and now it's even more of an argument that Philadelphia can pull off the trifecta. Why? Since the 1970 merger, there have been 24 instances of a team going 2-0 in the regular season, then meeting a third time with that same opposition in the playoffs. After the 49ers win, the team that won the first 2 has a record now of 15-9 in that third meeting. And the team that won the first 2 and hosted a playoff game, which is what Philadelphia is doing at the Lincoln South Philly, now 14-5 in that third game. And with the way that the Eagles have played this year over the Giants, that's why they're more than touchdown favorites. In Week 14, this is an Eagles team that was moving in a momentous fashion. They were playing excellent football. Jalen Hurts was still healthy at that point. He had a great day through the air and on the ground, and Philadelphia dominated this football game at MetLife Stadium. 27 first downs as compared to the Giants' 18. The plays were nearly equal, but still Philadelphia able to pick up nearly 30 first downs on the day. 437 total yards to the Giants' 304. 253 rushing yards for Philly, and obviously that's going to be a big key to this game. is running the rock as compared to 123 for New York. The Birds got after Daniel Jones en route to 70 sacks in the regular season with 7 sacks that day in Week 14. Birds gave up 4 sacks and they outscored the Giants 48-22 in that first matchup. In Week 18, I thought that Philadelphia didn't really want to display much after they took that early lead. And after they did take that early advantage, they sputtered a little bit. They were mundane. They were lackadaisical. And Davis Webb was able to mount a little bit of a comeback to make this game a one-score game. First downs for Philly, 23-18. Still outgained the Giants, 342-284. They once again eclipsed the century mark on the ground with 135 rushing yards to New York's 129. They only had 2 sacks that day. The Giants did have 3. Birds won it 22-16 to pull off the regular season sweep. And you look back to that first matchup. At that point, the Eagles were humming. They were playing dominant football, and it looked as though they had this potent offense that nobody could stop. And Donwick Martindale, who's set to get some head coaching interviews and did a marvelous job against the Minnesota Vikings in the wild card round yesterday on Sunday, is a very good defensive coordinator. 48 spot, they didn't have an answer for this Eagles offense. In the second matchup, though, it was clear that Jalen Hurts was not the same guy. Hurts was hurt. Birds got a little bit conservative because I think they were trying to rest themselves and avoid injury to get geared up for the playoffs. And what this game could come down to is the scoring output in this third matchup, especially with the way that the Giants played against Minnesota. They look good on offense, and you have to give credit where credit is due. Daniel Jones had arguably his best game as a pro in his biggest game as a pro. This year, if it does come down to an offensive showdown and shootout, the Giants in 2022 scored more than 24 points 3 times this year. The Eagles have scored more than 24 points 10 times this year. So with that, our first poll question for today, and it's the most important poll question on today's preview show. Who you got? NYG for the New York Giants, PHI for the Philadelphia Eagles. Let us know down below in the comment section. I think Philadelphia wins on the football field. I think Philadelphia is going to win here inside the walls at Chat Sports because Eagles now, Giants now, having a subscribers competition all throughout this week. It's a clean slate starting right now, even though we're approaching 40,000 subscribers. Let's take down the G-Men on the field and here at Chat Sports with subscribers. And if you want videos coming your way every single day on the Birds, subscribe now and let's take down New York Giants now. We have so much left to get to and unpack for our preview show. But first, today's show is presented by Rocket Money. Cancel your unnecessary subscriptions and start saving money today by downloading Rocket Money at rocketmoney.com/Eagles now. Do you know how much your subscriptions really cost? Most Americans don't. They think they spend about $80 per month on subscriptions when the actual total cost closer to $200. That's right. You could be wasting hundreds of dollars each month on subscriptions that you don't even know about, and there's this app I love using that takes care of all of that for me. It's Rocket Money, formerly known as Truebill. Rocket Money shows you all of your subscriptions in one place and then cancels for you whatever you don't still want. Rocket Money can even find subscriptions you didn't know you were paying for. You may even find out you've been double charged for a subscription, and to cancel it, the process is seamless. All you have to do is press cancel on the app, and Rocket Money takes care of the rest. So get rid of those useless subscriptions with Rocket Money now. Head to rocketmoney.com/Eagles now. Seriously, it could save you hundreds of dollars per year. It's rocketmoney.com/Eagles now. That link available for you in the comment section and the description of this video. Obviously, with this Eagles offense, with an ailing and hurt Jalen Hurts, it's important for this team that had that offensive momentum all throughout the year until Hurts got hurt to get back on track and reclaim what made this team special. An unstoppable offense that could slice you up through the air and on the ground, and opposing defenses had absolutely no answers for the Birds. And following Hurts' injury, they've stalled a little bit. And if they continue to stall, this is a Giants team that now has confidence. This is a Giants team that now has momentum. And in their last 2 Super Bowl runs, very similar feeling of how the Giants are moving right now as a team that nobody believed in, and now they believe they could be a team of destiny. If the Eagles can get back to these numbers here in which they were awesome throughout the regular season. They're going to be in a good spot. They're going to be very difficult to stop for any NFC defense here in this conference. Points per game, they rank third in the NFL with 28. Yards per game, third with nearly 390. Rushing yards, they were top 5 with a tick under 148 rushing yards per contest. Passing yards per game, led by the MVP candidate and Jalen Hurts, they finished 9th with 241.5. And for Hurts, limited participant in practice last week. On Thursday, we had talked about it. Wasn't even throwing the football. Was that because the Eagles were trying to keep him safe and healthy? Hopefully. And hopefully it's not an indication of him actually hurting all that much. What a season it was for Hurts and what a jump he made as a passer. Finished the season completing nearly 67% of his passes, more than 3,700 passing yards. He added 760 rushing yards on the ground, 35 total touchdowns for number 1 to just 8 turnovers, and he was a big reason why the Eagles won a franchise record 14 games, won the NFC East, and locked down that number 1 seed in the NFC to make home field advantage go through the raucous environment at Lincoln Financial Field. We will, of course, monitor Jalen Hurts' injury status all throughout this week. I am going to be scouring the internet for practice videos of how Jalen Hurts' motion looks, how his arm looks, and how healthy he is, because that's the biggest storyline heading into this football game. And he does have a lot of weapons to throw to, and maybe if he can't really chuck it downfield, he can pull the trigger on a couple of quick and easy throws to pick up yards after the catch. Because I'll tell you this, in the regular season, this Giants defense and that secondary, they really struggled against the likes of A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, and Dallas Goedert. And why I think it's inexcusable for the Eagles to lose this game, they're the far better team. Isaiah Hodgins is the Giants' number 1 wide receiver. They don't have the dogs like A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, and Dallas Goedert, who all put together great seasons. A.J. Brown broke Mike Quick's record for the most receiving yards in a single season with nearly 1,500, 11 touchdowns on top of that. Devontae Smith set the record for the most receptions in a single season. And Dallas Goedert, who's been healthy now for the last couple of weeks, one of the best tight ends in all of football. And in these two matchups, the Giants really had no answers for the Eagles receiving core. Even in Week 18, A.J. Brown had a big day. Devontae Smith had a couple of big catches, with Jalen Hurts hurting with that throwing shoulder. And I also want to see Dallas Goedert be a part of this game plan this week, because throughout this year, just like they did against the Vikings in the wild card round, Minnesota was prone to giving up chunk plays at that tight end position. And if Hurts is still banged up, Nick Sirianni, Shane Steichen, you cannot shy away from running the football. Far too many times this year, the Eagles have altered their game plan in a very confusing way, and they haven't given the football to Miles Sanders. And this is an Eagles offensive line that I believe is the best in football, and sometimes they're at their best when they set the tone and they set the momentum of getting downhill in their rushing offense, getting those blocks downfield, having Jason Kelce, Lane Johnson in space to pave open those running lanes for Miles Sanders, and this Giants defense can be picked apart by running the football, because that's an area in which they struggle against. So I want to see Miles Sanders featured heavily in this football game, especially to take the pressure off of Hurts if he's still hurting with that throwing shoulder. It was a great year for Sanders, career high in touchdowns, career high in rushing yards. Do not shy away from giving him the football, and if you do, and you try to throw it a little bit too much with an ailing Jalen Hurts, you could get upset and go home early, which would be an epic choke job for Philadelphia. The good news with the Eagles' pass protection because of Hurts' injury and running the football, looks as though Lane Johnson is going to be good to go. A WWE-style promo released over the weekend on social media by the Lane Train, who basically let everybody know, I'm coming, I'm good to go, and basically called out the reports of his previous injury. And if Lane Johnson can play, it puts the Eagles in a good position to win this football game. Why? Because anytime the first team All-Pro, as voted by the Associated Press, is on the field, it's good. And when he's not, the Eagles are 13-22 in games that Lane does not play, because he's one of the best right tackles in the history of the NFL. Total snaps this year for Johnson, 972. He's going to need to be, close to his best against a very good Giants defensive line. Kayvon Thibodeau, a couple of really good players on that inside like Dexter Lawrence, who that roughing the passer call against him was bogus. But for Lane Johnson, 972 total snaps this year, goose egg for sacks allowed, goose egg for hits allowed, 9 pressures allowed for the best right tackle in the game. Now let's shift gears to this Eagles defense, because this Giants offense led by Brian Daboll, who in my eyes is the NFL Coach of the Year, is going to have to come to play. Brian Daboll, former Eagles legend Mike Kafka, the offensive coordinator, have done wonders for Daniel Jones in this offense, elevating the play of Daniel Jones with the receiving core that features a lot of wide receivers who a lot of people don't know about. Isaiah Hodgins is their number one. Kenny Galladay's getting paid a lot of money. He's not even involved in that pass game. And Richie James is a go-to weapon at that wide receiver spot. This Eagles defense has to bring it, and they have to bring the boom. And this year they were good. But Jonathan Gannon, the pressure is on you to not get out-coached by Brian Daboll and Mike Kafka, who have done a great job with this Giants offense this year. Points per game for this Philadelphia defense in 2022, 8th. Yards per game, 1st. Passing yards per game, 1st. Rushing yards per game allowed, 16th. Tells me Giants could look to run the football. Sacks, 1st in the league with 70 in the regular season, and of course because of that, their sack percentage, 11.1, 1st in the NFL. This Eagles defensive line and this Eagles defense, they can take over the game. They can win it themselves with a consistent pass rush, but of course they have to be good against that rushing attack as well. Andrew Thomas is one of the best left tackles in the game. He might be second best behind Trent Williams. But everybody else, there are question marks along this Giants offensive line. Javon Hargrave, Fletcher Cox, Hassan Reddick, Josh Sweat. You can have yourselves a very big day. And I'm interested to see what the Giants' game plan is going to be. The Giants' game plan against the Minnesota Vikings in the wild card round, they passed the football, and Daniel Jones passed the test by outplaying Kirk Cousins, chucking it all over the yard, making some big-time, big-league throws. But will the Giants alter that game plan against the Eagles and try to run it because of how potent this Eagles pass rush is and the fact that this Eagles rushing defense has been about mediocre this year, and the Giants might not have a lot of confidence that they can hold up in protection to allow Daniel Jones to throw it. What a year it was for this Eagles sack production. Hassan Reddick led the way with 16 sacks this year. Javon Hargrave had a career year as well with 11. Brandon Graham set a career high with sacks with 11 as well. So too did Josh Sweat. So Reddick, Hargrave, Brandon Graham, and Josh Sweat all setting career highs with their sack numbers. And Fletcher Cox did add 7 from that defensive tackle position. And when Daniel Jones does get pressured, when Daniel Jones does get a little bit flustered, he is prone to making mistakes and turning the football over. Yes, I believe that Brian Daboll should be Coach of the Year because this is a Giants roster that, frankly, is not elite by any means. With the same roster that Joe Judge had, the Giants are now in the division round of the NFL playoffs. They made it to the playoffs for the first time in a long while, and the play of Daniel Jones has actually been pretty good this year. But if you pressure him, if you have him under siege, he can turn the football over, and turnovers can change the course of a playoff game. As for Saquon Barkley, another great year, and he was awesome against Minnesota. The Eagles' game plan defensively, get after Daniel Jones, stack the box, and force the Giants to beat you through the air with that mediocre receiving core, and do not let Saquon Barkley beat you, who finally was healthy and showed what he's able to do in a contract year. 1,300 rushing yards, 10 touchdowns, average yards per carry, 4.4, and of course with Saquon, the Penn State product at a Whitehall High School in central Pennsylvania. A lot of Eagles fans familiar with that area in the Lehigh Valley. He can catch it as well. 57 catches for 338 yards this year. When I talk about the Giants receiving core, Isaiah Hodgins, I think, has emerged as their number one guy. Richie James is their speedy slot. Darius Slayton, technically, their number one wide receiver with the production. He dropped that huge pass yesterday. And then Daniel Bellinger as the tight end. Solid year for him, but he's more so asked to be a blocker to the right of the right tackle or to the left of the right tackle. Eagles should win this football game. I think they're going to win this football game. I'm going to take the Birds by a final score of 31-26. I don't think the Eagles cover that 7.5-point line. I think in a third matchup against a divisional foe, this is a game that does come down to the wire, which is going to be great for business and great for our entertainment value. Birds do win it, but it's going to be close. They can't turn the football over, and of course, we're going to continue to talk about this matchup and all of the latest happenings around Philadelphia all throughout this week. So I gave you my score prediction. Give me yours right now in the comment section. It's the Giants on the road traveling down I-95 South to take on the Birds at the Lincoln, South Philadelphia. Predict the score for us. Don't forget to subscribe. EAGLES Eagles. Let's go.